the locavores, the organivores, the vegetarians, the vegans, the gourmets, and those of us who are just plain interested in good food. Even though we've come to this from different points, we all have to act on our knowledge to change the way that everyone thinks about food. We need to start acting. And this is not only an issue of social justice, as Ann Cooper said, though of course she's completely right, but it's also one of global survival. Which brings me full circle and points directly to the core issue, the overproduction and overconsumption of meat and junk food. As I said, 18% of greenhouse gases are attributed to livestock production. How much livestock do you need to produce this? 70% of the agricultural land on Earth, 30% of the Earth's land surface is directly or indirectly devoted to raising the animals we'll eat. And this amount is predicted to double in the next 40 years or so. And if the numbers coming in from China are anything like what they look like now, it's not going to be 40 years. There is no good reason for eating as much meat as we do, and I say this as a man who has eaten a fair share of corned beef in his life. The most common argument is that we need nutrients, even though we eat, on average, twice as much protein as even the industry-obsessed USDA recommends. But listen, experts who are serious about disease reduction recommend that adults eat just over half a pound of meat per week. What do you think we eat per day? Half a pound. But don't we need meat to be big and strong? Isn't meat eating essential to health? Won't a diet heavy in fruit and vegetables turn us into godless, sissy liberals? Some of us might think that would be a good thing. But no. Even if we were all steroid-filled football players, the answer is no. In fact, there's no diet on Earth that meets basic nutritional needs that won't promote growth. And many will make you much healthier than ours does. We don't eat animal products for sufficient nutrition. We eat them to have an odd form of malnutrition, and it's killing us. To suggest that in the interest of personal and human health, Americans eat 50% less meat, it's not enough of a cut, but it's a start. It would seem absurd, but that's exactly what should happen. And what progressive people, forward-thinking people, should be doing and advocating, along with a corresponding increase in the consumption of plants. I've been writing about food more or less omnivorously, one might say indiscriminately, for about 30 years. During that time, I've eaten and recommended eating just about everything. I'll never stop eating animals, I'm sure. But I do think that for the benefit of everyone, the time has come to stop raising them industrially and stop eating them thoughtlessly. Ann Cooper's right. The USDA is not our ally here. We have to take matters into our own hands, not only by advocating for a better diet for everyone, that's the hard part, but by improving our own. And that happens to be quite easy. Less meat, less junk, more plants. It's a simple formula. Eat food. Eat real food. We can continue to enjoy our food, and we continue to eat well, and we can eat even better. We can continue to search for the ingredients we love, and we can continue to spin yarns about our favorite meals. We'll reduce not only calories, but our carbon footprint. We can make food more important, not less, and save ourselves by doing so. We have to choose that path. Thank you.
All right, well, I hope you got that got you started here. How many people before they came here went to McDonald's? Taco Bell? Okay, just a couple more small housekeeping things before we get going. I just want to let you know that I actually have 2 meetings tonight, so I'm going to have to step out. I'd love to be in 2 places at one time because I think it's going to be really interesting what the panelists have to say. I also want to say this, that our first speaker, Dr. Bev Dow, an esteemed member of our biology faculty department, as well as a locavore,
I believe it's possible. Yes.
Developing locavore. She's going to be our first speaker, but she also has to step out as well too.
The fun never stops.
The fun never stops, that's right. We're actually stepping out to the same place, a wonderful meeting tonight. I do need to do one more introduction. thought I saw Deb in the, there she is. Deb, stand up. Deb was another member of the committee that we put together. So before I hand it over, I would just like to, I want to thank our committee for helping us put this together. How many are students here? Raise your hand if you're students. Excellent. This is great. This is going to be really good. How many community members do we have? Raise your hand. Raise your hand as community members. Great. That's excellent. How many other faculty members and staff on campus do we have? Excellent. All right. Excellent. All right. So without further ado, this is really the part I think that's going to be great. The expertise of the faculty that we have here on campus. And we'll start with Dr. Bev Dow from our biology department.
Thank you. Okay, that was my bio. All right. And there's a flaw in my plan of sitting here. Okay. So, Europeans in McHenry County, the history I'm going to talk about is agriculture as we know it. And agriculture as we know it today came with the Europeans. So in 1834, we had the first European permanent residents. This was the Gillian family that settled in the area that's now Algonquin. In 1836, there was so much European settlement to McHenry County College that the United States broke their treaty with the Potawatomi and expelled the Potawatomi Nation. 3 years later, in 1839, the first sawmill was built and two others followed in 1840 and 1842. Now, I got this information from a history that was written in 1885, and no one in 1885 remembered exactly when those sawmills had closed, but the 1885 history said that all were closed. They had fallen into disuse and decay for want of timber. This is a map of McHenry County that was made digitally from the survey records that were made just at the beginning of European settlement. The first thing they did was to survey the land so we could divide it up and own it, which was not a concept that was familiar to the Native Americans. And to give you the idea of the magnitude of the deforestation, we're talking about from 1839 until 1885, in about 40 years, the entire county the timber had been cut down to such an extent that the sawmills had to close. Now, to give you some perspective there, the dark green is forest. The light green is prairie. So at least half the county was in forest, and in 40 years it was all gone. So what's next? 1848, we had the first grist mills were built. This is 9 years after the first sawmill. We now have so much production that they can build commercial grist mills to grind grain. Other grist mills followed in 49, 50, and 62. And all of these mills were still in operation when the 1885 history was written. So the number of farms was growing. Now, much of McHenry County remained in family farms until the 1950s. When's the last time you saw someone look that happy holding a live chicken? We don't have personal relationships with chickens much anymore. As the videos said, the industrial farming began in the 50s, where tractors, fertilizers, antibiotics, and food supplements were readily available. During this time, from the 50s on, the average farm size increased. Oops, behind, sorry. Okay, so in 1950, the average farm size was 142 acres. By 1997, that had not quite doubled. And you'll notice that in the 2007 census, the farms are beginning to get smaller again. And we'll talk more about that. But first, here's a graph of the number of acres in farmland over the last 160 years. I find this graph somewhat alarming because we'll see now in the 2007 census, which is the last point, we have less farmland than we've ever had since the Civil War. Now, during the Civil War, of course, farmland declined because there weren't enough people left alive to do the farming. Now, the farmland is declining because we're growing houses instead of food. And how does that happen? Where are we? Oh, okay, got it. Average farmland price per acre in McHenry County, 1950, $200. Those were the days. 1997, $4,000. 2007, $5,000. And that's for farmland being sold for farms.